Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where my foot is agitated from my new boots that I mentioned yesterday. Still nothing interesting to say today, huh? Today we are tackling Detective Comics number 35, the Batman story, The Red Ruby Idol. They're not actually telling us the story title anymore at the front of Batman, which was great for the first couple of issues. The Batman stories have become 14 pages long starting last time, which is the average of all the stories in these anthology books like Detective and Action Comics, and the double the page count has really weakened the storytelling of Bill Finger and Gardner Fox, depending on which one is writing the comic at the time. I don't know what's wrong. Like, their pacing really worked for 7 pages. You really got through that story quickly and it had really great pacing, and we got like right down to the plot. But now that it's 14 pages long, the pacing is just all over the place, and if we could call this having structure, it's fairly broken. I'll get to that in a second. Bruce Wayne is hanging out with his best friend, Jim Gordon. Yeah, millionaire Bruce Wayne and Jim Gordon, a guy who is like 40 years older than him, depending on the depiction, are like best friends. And Bruce Wayne, the millionaire, just kind of hangs out in his office. A man by the name of Weldon comes crashing in. Crashing may be too strong of a word. Weldon, a few nights ago, bought a ruby icon of the Hindu god of destruction, Kali. He bought it from a rival collector by the name of Sheldon Lennox. Lennox sold it to him, making up some story about how he got it, but warned him of it being cursed. A few days afterwards, he started receiving threatening letters from Kali worshippers, never referred to as the Thuggee, which is the Kali worshippers. You would remember them best from Around the World in 80 Days if you've seen an adaptation of that story, or maybe you did read the book. Or, probably more famously, the villains from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It's also where we get the word thug from, but that's neither here or there. The word's never even actually used, and, well, they're not actually the Thuggee. Getting ahead of ourselves again. They're about to get, like, right on the case when they hurry outside and the supposed Thuggee have Sheldon Lennox in a car, threatening to kill him. They go after him, but they stab Sheldon Lennox and throw him into the ocean that happens to be on the side of the road. Gordon asks divers to go find the body, but they never find the body. This is important. Also, so the Thuggee in this comic are white guys with turbans, which I would complain about, but there's a later twist with this. Let's just say it's not as racist as you think it would be, but still racist, which has been a lot of my comics about the racism in these 1930s, 1940s comics. The positive, they're not as racist as you think they'd be, but still pretty racist. That is not the positive they think it is. Some days pass, the story gets out. Actually, Bruce Wayne says he wants to write this story. So here's an odd question. Is Bruce Wayne a reporter? Like, is he supposed to own, like, the local newspaper? This is, of course, New York and not Gotham. I would say it was the Gotham Gazette if it was Gotham, but this is still New York. We do see the story in newspaper print, but no byline by Bruce Wayne. Just an odd thing for Bruce Wayne to say. He's not usually a reporter or a storyteller of some kind. And over these next few days, we meet these two criminals who want to steal the icon reading the newspaper, and an Chinese man who also seems to be into getting the ruby statue of Kali. So some time has passed. Weldon feels safe, so he demands that he have no more police protection, which Gordon is happy to give him. He also claims he has gotten a impenetrable case to lock the ruby icon in, which is just a glass dome. Whoever sold him to this must have like rolled a 20 on their charisma check, because there is no way this thing was impenetrable. Bruce Wayne sees through that something's probably going to happen now that he has no more protection, and Batman shows up that night. Hey, we finally got to Batman. And here is really the main problem with the story. You can sort of argue that these 14-page comic book stories have 2 acts, and that's being generous at the idea that these have any sort of structure most of the time, because they don't. But in like a perfect way to tell these stories, you would have this first act that sort of sets up the threat. We see the threat happening, and in the second act, we get the hero dealing with said threat. A nice build-up payoff system, or at least that's kind of how I would see trying to fix a lot of the storytelling problems in these late 30s, early 40s comic books. Here, the best I can argue is this story has like a cold open to a prologue for half the story, and then the second half is the second act. There is no real first act. At best, it's truncated. It's barely existing. So yeah, we get like a page setting up 2 more villains or 2 more threats for Batman to deal with, and then we go right into the second act. Just not good storytelling at all. And I kind of just wish we were dealing with whatever the threat is, which is supposed to be the Thuggee, but it's not really a Thuggee. Now to get to that, Batman shows up and there's already a robbery in progress. It's the 2 just general criminals. I know why they're in this comic. They don't really do anything to Batman. It just seems to be an excuse to have action, because this long page count we've has had no action, but it's fairly quick and he deals with them quickly. But that's when the supposed to be Thuggee, but not really the Thuggee, run in. They surprise and overpower Batman, and one of them is carrying a wooden bat, which breaks through the unpenetrable case that Weldon put the Ruby statue under. Like, seriously, how stupid is he? And they escape away with it. Batman is able to follow them to Chinatown, where he finds they have gone into a shop owned by Sin Feng. Yeah, things are going to take a much more racist turn in this comic, and not for the group of people you thought it was going to be. Batman first goes and visits the mayor of Chinatown, or the guy they basically called the mayor of Chinatown, who tells him about Sin Feng and that he's actually not running a legitimate business. He's more smuggling in goods. So Batman shows up. Everybody seems to know who Batman is and has a pretty blasé reaction to the guy in the bat costume walking into their homes or stores. Batman tries to get Sin Feng by explaining to him that he possibly has a stolen good and he doesn't want to ruin his business that way. Feng goes along with this, and they have this weird, kind of funny tete-a-tete where Feng takes him to the back room where everywhere he sort of introduces him, he gets either attacked by like a swordsman, who he kills for some killing in this comic, gets like thrown down a trap door, which happens to have a water faucet halfway down that he can just land on. Whenever these heroes have like no way to escape falling a great distance, there's always like something halfway there that they can land on. Just random happenstance saves them constantly. And each time they just kind of go, well, that happened. It was probably an accident. You wouldn't want to do that to me, right, Sin Feng? And as racism goes, once again, me trying to find the positive here, and it's not positive, is the Asian characters here are not colored overtly yellow, but their features are almost a caricature of an Asian man. The eyes are very slinted. It's not great. And me just kind of taking the stance that it could have been worse is not the best stance. It's racist. These are not great characters. So Batman finally confronts Sin Feng. Sin Feng reveals that he's not actually Asian. It's Sheldon Lennox in disguise. Oh, God. I mean, there's something to be said that the bad guy is a white dude in yellow face the entire time, but we still have a white dude with yellow face in this comic. And that also means the Thuggee were not really Indian at all. They were white dudes in turbans, like I kind of complained that they were to begin with. See? Less racist, but still pretty racist. This might actually be the most racist comic I've read so far, and that includes Superman comics that have had guys in turbans hypnotizing Lois with made-up names. Lennox needed money quickly, so he needed to sell the idol to Weldon, thinking he could steal it back and sell it again. Sin Feng was apparently a real person who was his partner, but had different ideas at a point, so Lennox just straight up killed him. He then tries to escape from Batman, and Batman throws the Ruby statue at him, knocking him through the window as he falls to his death, lying there in a pool of blood with the statue sitting right on top of him, sort of the statue's curse, if it did have a curse, taking its final victim. I mean, this is kind of funny, but Batman still takes a life. At least he didn't shoot the guy, because this is the era of Batman that has a gun, threw a statue at him, which is a ruby statue about that size. It's probably pretty heavy. That's kind of impressive too. But no, this is not my favorite Batman story so far, and just not strong stories so far since doubling the page count. We'll see if they improve, but can we go back to the 7 pages? It was so much stronger and less racism. Bring in those goofy comic books villains. Still no sign of Alfred or Robin. Robin needs to be coming very soon because Batman #1 is just within sights, and Robin is in that comic. Okay, that is it from Detective Comics #35, The Ruby Idol. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when a new video goes up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Mondays and Thursdays I tackle Superman, either an Action Comics Superman story or a Superman comic, usually piece by piece. And join us next time. Same Bat Day, same comic book channel. Bye!